Hi, this is Andrew. Thanks for joining me. This video covers the configuration of default static routes and floating static routes. Without doing the specific assignments for this class, I think the best way to explain the material is with an older packet tracer from the CCNA V6 curriculum. It covers the things that I want to cover in a way that kind of eliminates the unnecessary stuff. Not that it's truly unnecessary, it is stuff that you need to know, but in terms of new material that I really want to focus on here, this packet tracer really covers that. With that said, let's get started. So what we have here, you see we have an edge router and we have two paths to get to the internet. ISP, Internet Service Provider 1, Internet Service Provider 2, and eventually we get to a web server. So the idea with the lab is that we're going to configure a way to get there. So just to give a little background on this, if I were go to the command prompt, and I'll put it over here, we can try to ping 198.0.0.10, that is the web server. And I can't get there. And that's because we haven't yet configured a default route. Let's look at that. So we go to the edge router, and if I enable, and I'm going to show IP route, and what we have here, and I'll move this over just a little bit, what we have here, we have a 10 networks. A couple of those networks, those are, I believe, to the ISPs, and then 192.168.10, 192.168.11. So if you just look through that routing table, 198.0.0.10 is not going to match anything there, so it just gets dropped. So that's where things stand right now, and I will move this over so we can read a little bit of the directions. I'm not so focused on the directions for the lab. I really want to focus more on the content and the understanding. But part one, configure an IP for default static default route. That is what we'll be doing here. We're going to configure a directly connected static default route from edge router to the internet. The primary default route should be through ISP1. So then we'll take a look at the routing table and we will test it out. So static default route through ISP1 right here, and I can't actually click on it there we go. You can see how that is serial 000 leaving the edge router that we want to be our static default route. So we're going to go into config T, and we have, first up, we're going to do IP route, and the static default route is called the zeros route, and what we do is say 000 and subnet mask 0000, and what that's saying is that if it doesn't match anything else, send it out this port. And that is saying if your PCB, and we'll assume that's 192.168.11 network, and you're trying to send it to the 10 network, you don't use the static default route because you have a more specific route to send it out to. So that's how it works. This is what we're doing. Now the one thing that I didn't do yet is tell it what port to send it out on, and we want it to be 0, 0, 0, 0. 3 zeros. I don't know how many I said. There we go. So, and it's saying basically if we don't have a point-to-point interface, performance might be impacted. We do have a point-to-point interface, so we can leave that way. Now if we do let's do show IP route, and now we have this extra route down here on the bottom. All zeros is directly connected serial 000. It has a little asterisk there. Also says gateway of last resort is 0000 to network 0000. It's saying anything will match that. Now we can go back And I don't remember if I did it with PCA or B, but we'll try B right now and ping. And we want to ping our web server here. 198.0.0.0 and 10. So first one should time out, and then we should start getting responses. And let's see, there we go. Now we can actually get there. And if we were to run a trace route, we would see that it's going through this network. And I think what command is used to trace a path from a PC to a destination? That is the trace search command here. I won't bother with it. From PCA, trace the route. Actually, it says it should go through 10.10.10.1. So, okay. They talked me into it. Tracert 198.0.0.10. And if you look at it, that's the network they were talking about, the 10.10.10.1 network. Okay, so now, what is a floating static route? Well, we know we have a route that goes from this anywhere in these networks, and there could be 2 networks here, there could be hundreds, through this edge router this way. What happens if this network goes down? Then you'd want it to fail over this way. Now, if we just put another route in here, it would consider them equal, and that's not what we're looking for. The assumption is that this ISP is slower or more expensive, or there's some reason that you want it to be a lower priority. You only want it used if the first route is down, is non-functional. So what we will do is go in here, and the directions are actually somewhat valuable, so we will look at them here. So what is the administrative distance of a static route? That's the route that I just created here. And the answer to that is 1. Now, if the route was defined by a routing protocol, it would be a different number, 90 or 110, depending on the protocol, or there are other protocols and other numbers. But for a static route, the priority is 1. The administrative distance is 1. So what we're going to do is configure a directly connected floating static default route with administrative distance of 5 through ISP2. And that is SE000001. So we're going to do that now. IP route, and we want, let's see, we want 0000, and if we scroll back up, we're repeating this command right here almost exactly. Except, so we gave it the route, now we're going to tell it go out the other interface, and the other interface is 001, and now we could stop there, but that would create a second route with administrative distance of 1. If I do a question mark here, I can either hit return or I can change the distance metric for this route. In this case, the directions tell us to use 5. We could use 2. We could use any number we want that is greater than 1, really up to 255. So we're going to set this, we'll just follow the directions, we'll set it as 5. Now, we're going to actually go out of order here. We're going to display the contents of the routing table first. Do show IP route. And the reason we're doing this is because it'll look exactly the same as before. The routing table gets built based on best routes. So we have our route to 00000 is directly connected, and it's still to S000. So we want to see the actual entry for this route. So we're going to look into running configuration. And in here, there we go. We get our routes. We have IP route, that's the first entry through serial 000. And then this is our second entry through serial 001. And that 5 at the end is the administrative distance that we added. So now we have a backup route. If we Let's close this. If we go back to whichever PC and ping it again, we get there. And if we do the tracer again, we go 198.72.00.10. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I keep going back and forth between PCA and PCB because that's a lot for me to keep straight. I can't keep track of it. It doesn't matter. It's all on this side of the network. It all reaches the router receives it and says, okay, where do I send it? So if I do this, we get through 10.10, 10.1. Now what they have us do is verify, we're going to break it. We're going to verify that the backup route, the floating static route, works by disabling the primary route. So I'm going to leave this here and go back to my router, and I'm going to go into interface S000, and I will do a shutdown command. Let's try to type it properly. There we go. Now it's down, and you see how it's read this way. Now let's see how well it works. Start with a ping. It might take a little bit of time for things to converge and to figure out it's got another way to get there. We get 2 timeouts, and there we go. So now we are successfully getting there. Now let's run the trace route again. And this time we're going through 10.10, 10.5. And before it was through 10.10, 10.1, which is this interface, this link. Now it's through 10.10, 10.5, which is this link. And if we were to do show IP route, we will see that our gateway of last resort is now going through S001. Now, this is not a permanent thing. We still have the entry with the administrative distance of 1 going to the edge, going to ISP 1. So if we do a no shutdown command here and bring it back up, we will, let's see, we change to up, we will run do show IP route, and we're back to 000. And if we, obviously our ping should work, we'll do another trace route, and we're back to 10.10, 10.1. So that's a default, that's a floating static route as a way to provide a backup connection. So we're going to just, one last thing, we're going to configure the floating IPv6 floating static route. So we'll go back to our router, and I want to exit out of my interface configuration, go back to global configuration. We have the IPv6 static default route is to ISP1 is already configured. So we only need to configure an IPv6 floating static default route with administrative distance of 5 to ISP2. And in this case, it's going to point to will point to an address. So we want to do IPv6 route, and we will do, well, we want it to be a floating, a default static route. That means it's all zeros. And remember, with IPv6, we can just eliminate all the zeros and put 2 colons. And then for the prefix, we put a /0. Now we want to tell it, if we do a question mark, we can give it interfaces, but we want to give it the IPv6 address of the next hop. And that is going to be 2001 DB8 A 2 :1. And now once again, we can either hit enter and enter it with a default administrative distance of 1, or we can set it to a different administrative distance. In this case, we want to set it to 5. So we're done there. Once again, in this case, we'll go first to the running configuration, and when we get to the IPv6 route, that was the one that they configured. That was the 0 route to the 2001 DB8A1 :1. And then the backup route, the floating static route, is 2001 DB8A2 :1 with an administrative distance of 5. So let's see how that works. We can start by going back here, and in this case we're going to we'll ping the 2001 DB8 FF :10, and we're getting there, and that would be through ISP1. Now we'll just quickly shut down the interface again. So we go into interface S000 and do a shutdown command, and once again we're red, and we'll try to ping again, and that was pretty quick. Now we're getting there the other way. So now we can bring up, if we just look at one more thing here, do show IPv6 route, we get our floating static route is right here. We are going through the network I selected before. Now if we do a no shutdown, give it a second to come back up, look at the route again, and now we're not there yet. Now we should see it. We see that the static route is once again now going through 1.1, where it was going through 2.1 before. So that is the basics of static routing. Now if we wanted to have other static routes, we could look at those. Let's just take a quick look. Show route, IP route. All of these are all static routes that are, well, these are all connected routes, so we don't have anything else that's static. But say we had another router over here, we might have a static route that is a single direction, and we just create the static route for it. It's the same process, except instead of the default route 0000, we would be setting it to be 172.16.4.8 or 4.0/24, and that tells us that's how we get to that network. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.